At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 300 programs at asuonline.asu.edu. With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
I love me. Oh my goodness. I completely lost my train of thought just thinking about my time on using Napster. But I love thinking back to that time where we used to. Can I say that I was stealing music? Can I say that now? Has the statute of limitation expired?
I think you're okay by now.
Okay, because I was thinking about. That's why I paused. I was like, I don't know if I should say that or not. But yes, I was illegally downloading movies, songs, whatever. Because if you don't remember Napster, I want to say this was maybe late 90s, early 2000s. It was the Wild Wild West. People would upload songs, different media to share. And this was before people really had high speed internet as just a normal course of doing business. We had dial up back then, and it took a long time to download songs and movies. Like, forget it. You know, you'd have to go to bed and maybe wake up in the morning. This was like 3G type internet. It was really, really slow. But that's how people first started sharing music, movies, and other files. It was illegal. You weren't supposed to do it. But Napster figured out a way that people could upload media and other folks could download that media and then have it for themselves to use. It revolutionized not only, I'll say, what would become social media as we know it, but also ended the music industry as it was known back then. A number of corporations consolidated, including the ones I was working at, and the music industry. If you wonder why you don't have music stores anymore, like a Sam Goody or a Musicland or Warehouse or any of those places, it's because of Napster. I can draw you a straight line because prior to then, Napster was the only way you could get individual songs. The music industry would force you to buy. What we would do is, any record label, we would release a song from an artist, and we wouldn't release it as a single, forcing you to go to a store and actually buy the whole album, the whole CD, paying $18.99 for maybe one song that you heard on the radio. Every once in a while, we would release what they call singles and allow you to buy that individual song. But for the most part, we wanted you to buy the whole album. Napster comes along and makes it where you don't have to do that anymore. In fact, you don't even have to buy the album or the single. You'll just have someone who has the single. They will share it via the Napster. And I can't even call it an app because apps didn't exist then. It was like a website, a portal at that point, and then you would be able to download it. Napster was sued into oblivion, the original Napster, and you had some follow-up. Mark, do you remember Kazaa?
Vaguely.
That was one of the successors to Napster. And then you had a company called Apple, which came along with the MP3 player and iTunes, where you could then legally purchase the individual songs. And it was over for the music industry.
Yeah, now just try moving stuff around between all your devices with Apple stuff.
Good. I've lost at least 400 songs easily because to get on one computer, you're just stuck. And unfortunately, I had it on a work computer. Then I stopped working there. The music library was gone.
Yeah, as much as I love Apple products and find them beautiful, they're so controlling with their media that it's incredibly frustrating.
Napster, I thought, was dead and gone, but it has now been sold for $207 million to the tech firm Infinite Reality. Infinite Reality, I guess they want to rebuild Napster into, quote unquote, a social music platform that prioritizes active fan engagement over passive listening, close quote. Infinite Reality formed in 2019 with backing from a number of sports and music celebrities and bought the platform from the blockchain and cryptocurrency company Algorand and HiveMind Capital Partners. $207 million. You would think for, I don't know, 30 million, just an arbitrary number, you would just go ahead and be able to build your social media platform itself. In my mind, I don't know what Napster has to offer other than the intellectual property and copyright of the Napster name.
Did you run across this on your MySpace page?
You know exactly where I'm going with this. It seems like 8 steps backwards. That's why I gave the history of the late 1990s and early 2000s, because there are people alive now who have no memory of Napster, have no idea what it was, its purpose, its significance, none of that.
Maybe it's the coding that they bought. Maybe they bought beyond the intellectual property, they bought all of the back end coding instead of having to build out that level of network or communication or the ability to share music as Napster was created. Maybe they purchased that.
But if you know the history, Napster, there have been a number of companies along the way which tried to purchase Napster and rebuild it into a legitimate company. Best Buy bought it. Streamer Rhapsody had even bought it. So this is not the first bite.
I remember Rhapsody.
Forgot about Rhapsody.
Oh, Rhapsody.
That's not the first bite at the apple.
Oh, wow.
That was a throwback.
Yeah.
And this is what Napster CEO John Vlasopoulos, former head of music at Roblox, who invested in the first iteration of Napster at BMG. He will continue to lead the brand as it integrates with the company's hopes for live streaming, e-commerce, digital community management, and Mark AI initiatives.
My favorite.
Quote, the internet has evolved from desktop to mobile, from mobile to social, and now we are entering the immersive era. Yet music streaming has remained largely the same. I don't know how you're going to reinvent this brand and also make it new and relevant. I hope they have a great plan, but $207 million. What is it? I just don't know tangibly what you're buying other than the Napster name, because the coding itself can't be worth $207 million because they're trying to build something which doesn't really exist yet from the way I read it. So why are you paying $207 million? You can call it anything.
True.
Yeah. What does Napster have as far as people's data at this point?
And especially because now it's not even a thing to keep stuff on your hard drive anymore, unless you really, really, really like the album or movie. You just go to Spotify. You listen to the song and you pick what you want, and then you're done with it. You come back to as many times as you want.
That's what I do.
Spotify, we have a brand new version of the iHeartRadio app that is just rolled out.
True.
That dwarfs Spotify and any other app that has ever come out, with being able to now streamline and focus in on your radio stations, put them on an actual digital receiver now, where you could just go this station, that station, the other station, podcast. You can line them up the exact same way. I don't know why you come up with the Napster now in the face of a juggernaut like iHeartMedia. That almost seems like a waste of $200-something million.
Here's the fundamental question. What is it that any company, call it whatever you want, what is it that would-be company, what is available for that company to offer which does not already exist, what is not in existence? We can listen to any music we want whenever we want. I can go to YouTube, for example, and find any song that I want. I can go to Spotify. I can find whatever I want. I can go to iHeartRadio if I want to listen to an actual live music station or a curated station of music that I happen to like. What is it that the new Napster is going to be able to offer which doesn't already exist? given the $207 million price.
Also, what is this immersive crap? What if I just want to listen to a song? I don't want to be immersed.
They're trying to combine streaming, social media, and also, I guess, the meta, quote unquote, universe, one-stop shopping.
Okay. I mean,
I was just going to say that, you know, I don't know how much it's going to be worth, but the whole revolution of Napster, what it became, just reminded me of this scene the minute you said that.
Can you search for this?
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead.
It up because they don't want you. They want your idea, and they want you to say thank you while you, excuse me, wipe your chin and walk away. That's what happened to you?
And delusional.
Yes, but there'll be payback in Case. I brought down the record companies with Napster, and Case will suffer for their sins too.
Sorry, you didn't bring down the record companies. They won.
In court, yeah. You want to buy a Tower Records, Eduardo?
Most people don't even get that reference. And some, if you just happen to like movies, they only know it from the Italian Job, that movie, as an oblique reference. You know, I'm the one who actually created Napster, Seth Green's character.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll follow the story, but they're welcome to prove me wrong. There had to have been a better way than spending $207 million.
Maybe this new one has deals with the performance rights organizations, and they can now legally stream the music because you're bringing back an illegal platform?
No. They've already had that. When they first tried to bring back Napster, they had settled those cases where they could legally do it, but no one cared because there were other places like Spotify or Tidal, as it were, before they went out of business or whatever happened.
Stick with that. Tidal went out of business. This is not a good idea.
No, that's what I'm saying. That market has already been conquered. So unless you have something different and new in the way that MySpace had conquered the market, here comes Facebook and offers something more than what MySpace had offered. Oh, look out. Here comes Instagram, or you had who am I forgetting? The various other social media apps which have come since then offer something more, something different. Now, Facebook is hung around because it's the only social media platform where you can have long form conversations. You can post pictures, and it's a place where you can kind of do a little bit of everything. And I think that's why it's hung around for so long. But Facebook is eventually going to die off as well. And whatever comes along has to be able to offer something new or something that something else has already been offering. I don't know what they're trying to do, but from the way it's described, it's going the way of Tidal or Rhapsody or something like that.
Maybe you can find your answers on Alta Vista.
Lycos.
Jeeves. ask Jeeves.
It's Later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640. Live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. Unfortunately, we have to talk about JuJu Watkins, what happened last night, and what might be her future.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
It's Later with Mo Kelly. We're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app, and we have about, 8 TVs in this studio. Not exaggerating. It's weird. It's an overload as far as stimuli. If you have any type of photo sensitivity, you don't want to be in this studio because the TVs are just blinking and flashing at you. If you have any type of epilepsy, this is not the place to be. I'm not trying to be funny. The TVs can be oppressive in that regard. I say that because some TVs will be on sports, some TVs will be on local issues, some TVs will be on cable news, so we can find a little bit of everything going on as it happens. As it were last night, we were watching the USC Lady Trojans in the tournament, the NC2A tournament. They were playing Mississippi State. The game had just started when our show started. I didn't make mention of it. I can't remember what I was talking about, but it was distracting to me because I saw JuJu Watkins, arguably the biggest star in women's college basketball, go down on the fast break, and she tumbled down to the court. There's no sound in the studio, obviously, because we're doing a radio show, but you could tell she was writhing in pain. You could tell it was at the Galen Center. So that was a home game for the Lady Trojans. You could tell fans were on their feet and in disbelief, great concern. You knew she was injured. You didn't know to what extent. USC Trojans, they were ranked, they were number 1 seed, but they were one of the top 2 teams as far as I was concerned in all of women's college basketball. It was a scary moment. And obviously, if you're a fan of basketball, if you're a fan of JuJu Watkins, you didn't want her to be seriously injured. She was carried off the court by 2 people. And the injury looked bad on TV, but it doesn't always mean that it's a serious injury. Maybe she just tweaked her knee. Later that night, the news came out that she had a tear in her ACL. Her season obviously is over, but what has been less discussed, and I think it's important to talk about it. Yes, it's unfortunate that this is how her season ends. Yes, it casts a pall over the remaining season for the Trojans, who had a great shot at winning the championship. And now that has been thrown in doubt, because when you have arguably the best player in women's college basketball who will no longer be able to help you to that goal, let's be honest, it's not likely that USC will be able to go deep into the tournament. I hope they do. I really hope they do. But the reality is what the reality is. But what hasn't been discussed is how this could really change the trajectory of JuJu Watkins' career. Not only her college career, but her impending professional career. What she does have working for her is most likely she'll probably play the next 2 years in college. She won't have the pressure of turning pro or turning pro early. But oftentimes with ACL injuries, if you don't know, there's a long rehab process. And depending on the player, some players do not come back as explosive as they were. They don't come back the same player as they were prior to the injury. JuJu Watkins, depending on the rehab process, may miss a lot of next season. It hasn't been discussed, but I just know from watching professional sports and watching other players rehab ACL injuries, it could be a year before she is playing at the level she was right now prior to the injury. And I'm more concerned about her life and also what's next for her as opposed to just this tournament. It's a horrible thing to see. But if you know the dangers, when I say the dangers, talking about career dangers of college athletics, this is why a lot of players go pro early, because they can suffer an injury which could end their professional career. This is why a lot of players, and I don't know that JuJu Watkins had an insurance policy, but most top tier players have insurance policies on themselves for moments just like these, in the event that they should suffer a career-ending injury. I don't know if she had a policy, but this is something which she would have to sit down with her family and those people that she trusts most to talk about the rehab process and what that's going to do for her career. But I understand why players may go pro early, to make sure that they don't find themselves in a situation where they do have a career changing or a career defining or even a career ending injury on the college level and miss out on the opportunity to make the money of professional sports. Now, we're talking about the WNBA. The WNBA did not have a lot of money when compared to the NBA, but JuJu Watkins was already high up on the NIL list. That's name, image, and likeness. She was doing well. She had State Farm commercials, plural. She was doing a lot of endorsements, and this impacts that. I wish nothing but good things for JuJu Watkins, and I'm quite sure the team is hurting, and they'll probably do the best they can to rally around her and also rally as a unit and play on into the tournament. They're in the Sweet 16. We'll see what happens going forward. But this is a lot bigger than people have been letting on. This is bigger than just the tournament. What happened last night could be career defining and career changing. I hope it is not. But if you know the history of ACL injuries, it often is. It's Later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640, live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. When we come back, I'm going to take you back to when I was a kid. And for some reason, there was this VHS tape and it was only on VHS. Couldn't find it on beta, which was making the rounds, and people said it was either banned or you couldn't find a copy of it anywhere. And it was a cult phenomenon. Can't call it a classic. It was called Faces of Death. And now they're going to update it and remake it. We'll tell you whether that's a good or bad idea when we come back.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Let's go back to 1978. This is around the time that VHS and beta, the VCR phenomenon, was really getting underway. And there were movies that were easy to find in video stores and other movies or videos which were quote unquote banned or not carried in many video stores, if you're old enough to remember. One of those movies, and it was presented in a documentary style. I remember back in the day, it wasn't clear whether what we were seeing was actual footage of people who were dead. Sometimes it looked like it, or it was something that was more akin to a horror movie and staged. But Faces of Death, back in the early 1978 into the 1980s, they had sequels after that, was a big thing for kids my age. In the way that we would look for Playboy magazines, in the way that we were trying to figure out the squiggly line porno, soft porn on TV or Select TV, if you're old enough to remember them. Faces of Death was one of those movies that everyone was looking for. Few people could find a copy of. And it was a phenomenon. I don't want to call it a cult classic because there's really nothing classic about the movie, at least for what I remember. It was really gory, really dark, very divisive, controversial. Now there's going to be an upcoming remake, which is being billed as quote unquote extremely dark. As I said before, the original Faces of Death was presented in a documentary style, talking about death all around the world, different customs, freak accidents. You would see all sorts of gore, and it was always unclear whether what you were watching was real or fabricated. It was probably a little bit of both. This remake, seems to be a straight up movie, which is going to have all sorts of dark gore, something Mark Ronner would probably love, probably very violent, very dark.
Yeah, I don't know how you remake that, because certain things in Faces of Death, as you pointed out, some were phony, but things like animal cruelty would be an absolute non-starter right now. And
Right.
Other parts, we're so case-hardened to gore at this point that we never used to be. And this, I think, started with putting CSI on network TV and moving all the way to Reddit now, where you can pretty much see anything that you want to. I mean, even some of our news clips here, you can hear the audio of people getting shot. So I think Faces of Death is kind of redundant in the year of our Lord 2025.
It is redundant, and unless you're showing people actually getting killed, not that I would want that.
No.
You're not actually covering new ground. For example, Mark, you just kind of alluded to this. In just covering the news, I remember a number of times, unfortunately, when I was watching local news where someone, after a car chase on 2 different occasions, killed himself. One, I think, was on the 105 freeway. He unfortunately ate a shotgun. And I remember that as clear as day.
And they showed it on television.
And it changed shortly thereafter as far as what local stations will do as far as news coverage if there's a possibility of something going bad, or at least they make sure there's some sort of delay. And there was one I saw here while I was working at KFI. All I remember, he was in a white pickup truck, and it was a long police chase somewhere in Southern California. I'm quite sure I could look it up and find it. And he stopped, and he put a gun under his chin and pulled the trigger. And I said, "Oh my God," because you could see the bullet exit the top of the truck.
That's some nice dinner time viewing. The Faces of Death thing, that came along in 78, as you pointed out. But that's part of the whole Mondo movie tradition that started way back in 62 with a movie called Mondo Cane. And it had, like wild stuff from around the world. Like you remember like putting the little monkey in the table with the hole in it.
Yes.
And the people ate its brains. And oh my God, what a horrifying thing to watch.
I'm sorry, but I do remember that, the monkey brains. Yeah.
Terrible. Because that seemed real to me. And Mondo Kane launched that whole, I guess, genre of kind of shocking reality stuff from around the world. And by the way, did you know a really super famous piece of easy listening music came out of that? This one right here.
Really?
That's where that came from.
I didn't even remember that.
Yeah, so
it sounds so odd now.
Yeah, music for cannibalism.
Oh my gosh. After all these years.
And you can find like Mondo Kane and Mondo box sets all over Amazon or eBay. Faces of Death was kind of a logical extension of that at the time. Like, here you go, Yankees. You want some nasty stuff? Here it is, good and hard.
And also with AI, deep fakes, there's really no way to discern what we're looking at more times than not these days. And if you're going to put it in a movie, to your point, Mark, there's only so far that you can go legally. There's only so far you can go socially in today's America, especially when you're talking about cinema. Now, if you're just going to put it up online, no problem. But this is supposed to be a legitimate movie, which is going to be available to see in theaters.
So with actors, or is it meant to be? Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to. There's someone from Euphoria, which is supposed to be in it.
And will we get to see the actors actually killed or dismembered or shot?
See, that's the thing. Obviously, it's not going to be in a documentary style, so it seems like it's just going to be a straight up movie with fake carnage or something like that.
I mean, there's always going to be an audience for that stuff, and I'm a horror fan, and I monitor what other horror people are watching. And there's the whole spectrum. There's people who like ghost stories, and there's people who like extreme gore, and people will watch that.
Yeah, it's supposed to provide quote unquote stomach turning gore, for which the franchise is known. But the gore, I'm quite sure, is just movie gore, not actual gore.
I mean, when you can watch an autopsy on network television, what's left to see?
Nothing new, at least, with the exception of what led up to the autopsy, or and it's not going to be a snuff film. You're not going to see people. I don't see how any way they would produce a movie where you're going to see people getting killed. For example, vis-a-vis like the electric chair or something like that, because I know that was in one of the Faces of Death.
That was in the first one, and I'm pretty sure that one was fake. But it got your attention because, I mean, it showed something that people hadn't really seen before. You know, like in an old John Garfield black and white movie or something, you didn't see the tape over the eyes bulge from the explosion of the eyeballs.
And pre-internet, there was no way you could like validate what you were seeing. If they said, John Michelson is going to die in the electric chair here, and in 1978, it's like, oh my goodness. Where now it's like, who the hell is John Michelson? Is this a real person? You can validate whether any of this is going to be real. And we know that it can't be real in the way that would really shock us, because the movie would never get made. The movie would never make it to theaters, and it would be boycotted and, protested from day one.
I can't tell if this is going to be a boys' night movie for us, or if it's something that I'm going to have to watch on my own and then dump on in a Rana report.
Well, it's going to be a movie. They're actually writing a screenplay. So there you go. It's a movie, not a look at death and the complexities of it and the gore usually associated with it.
I'll say this. There are certain movies that anybody who goes to see it should be on a federal registry, and this could be one of them.
It's Later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640. We are live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. And I got to let you know, it is time for World Champion Dodger Baseball. It's almost here. This Thursday, just 2 days away, the Dodgers will be taking on the Detroit Tigers for opening day at Dodger Stadium. First pitch at 4:10. You can listen to every game on the iHeartRadio app. And this is something which is a treat, if only because baseball is the only sport where you can listen to games via streaming. So it is something that you should take advantage of. All you got to do is go to the iHeartRadio app, keyword AM570 LA Sports. The new Hollywood Pantages season is a home run. You know we love the Hollywood Pantages theater here. We talk about it all the time. You can get a 7-show package at Broadway in Hollywood.
At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 300 programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
It's Later with Mo Kelly. And Twella Sharp is a conspiracy theorist. He's of the mindset that the zombie apocalypse is almost upon us. And because of shows like The Last of Us, he's convinced, like the show depicts, that the fungus will be the gateway to not only zombies, but the downfall of civilization. Isn't that correct, Twella?
That is correct.
See, I'm not making anything up. And I'm not trying to be funny. He is more serious than can be. But there is this. There are new cases of a dangerous drug-resistant fungus which have been identified in at least 2 states' hospital systems. There is Candida auris, also called C. auris, which was first identified in the U.S. back in 2016. Since then, the number of cases have increased every year, jumping substantially in 2023, which was the last year of data available from the CDC. Recently, cases have proliferated in Georgia. A study published this week, which focused on the Jackson Health System in Miami, Florida, also found cases of the fungus have rapidly increased. The CDC has called Candida auris, quote, an urgent antimicrobial resistance threat, close quote, because it's resistant to antifungal drugs, making it hard to treat an infection once it occurs. If you get infected with this pathogen that's resistant to any treatment, there's no treatment we can give you to help combat it. You are on your own.
Yep. I at this point, I don't know what else there is to say. I mean, this has jumped beyond conspiracy into reality as far as just the dangers of certain fungi, what we have not seen as far as just in humans is the zombie-like effects of the fungi. Although we have seen it in deer, we have seen it in bees, and we've seen it in other living organisms wherein this fungi spreads. With bees, it infects a bee and it causes a bee to go back to the nest, and then it ultimately destroys the entire nest as the bees cannibalize. And in deers, it creates this zombie-like effect where deers are just walking around aimlessly. They're no longer scared. They're just walking aimlessly. They're not really eating. They're just kind of existing till they die. When this, not if this, but when this jumps to humans and it is still resistant to all forms of treatment, what is it that you think is going to happen to us?
When a fungus infects a patient, it can be hard to identify. Symptoms are like those of any infection, including fever and chills. And another reason that Candida auris is so concerning is because of how well it has adapted to surviving on surfaces like countertops, doorknobs, stairway rails. It's just good at staying alive. And it's not just in hospitals in Georgia and Florida, what I just told you about. Candida auris has been found in all but 12 states. And I told you about the spike between 2022 and 2023. In California, there have been 1,566 cases, which is the most in the country, with the exception of the state of New York, for what it's worth.
Yeah. Yes.
In the past, the CDC estimated that based on information from a limited number of patients, 30 to 60% of people with C. auris infections have died.
You said how many? What's that percentage again?
30 to 60%.
30 to 60% have just died. That's where we're at right now. As this planet continues to get hotter and hotter, we know it's getting hotter here in SoCal. As this planet is getting hotter and hotter, and I know everyone wants to dispute, no, it's not getting hotter. It's cold as I don't know what over here. For now.
Mark, I want you to ask Tuwala, because I can't ask him with a straight face. I need you to ask him. What does he think about a Visa credit card?
What are you trying to set me up for here, Mo?
Just want you to ask him the question. I just want you to ask him the question.
No, he just wants this whole conversation about Visa and the mark of the beast. And it is very, very clear that Visa, even though several individuals who are pro-Visa have tried to come out and say that Visa is not the mark of the beast. Lots of people try to come out and dispute its connectivity.
What do you mean, Tuwala? What are you talking about? Visa? I have a Visa card in my wallet. Are you saying that it's the devil?
Yeah. The Visa is absolutely connected to the mark of the beast.
So every time I use my Visa card, I am worshiping the Dark Lord. Is that what you're saying?
That is exactly what I'm saying.
Well,
you want to go further down the rabbit hole, Mark?
Yeah, I kind of do.
Okay. Further explain, Tuwala, please.
The Visa, the VI being the Roman numeral for 6, of course. The S, I believe it was the Sumerian 6, and I believe the A was another 6 in another language. But this is not new news.
Intriguing.
This is just stuff that's just lost news, and news that isn't widely covered because, hey, people want to use their beast card.
Tuwala, did we land on the moon?
Of course we did. What are you talking about?
I just want to make sure.
The world is round.
Okay.
We landed on the moon. I'm just trying to point out things that are obvious, that are just there. This isn't something that's hidden. It's not hidden. So, okay.
Mark, any more questions?
Every time I make a Visa transaction, do I lose a little bit of my immortal soul, Tuwala?
You do. Just a little bit.
Damn, I use my debit card at just about everywhere.
Look, we're all damned, but just make sure that when this fungus takes over your brain and you're just a wandering, mindless ghoul, that you remember these words, that you say, oh, yeah, Tuwala was right.
Okay, what about Diner's card?
Okay.
Oh, whatever. Diners Club?
Diners Club, yeah.
Okay, whatever. Does that even exist anymore?
Oh, but Diners, wait, Diners. Oh, Diners has 6 letters.
Uh-oh.
What about Amex? Is that okay?
See, this is what
I'm just asking questions.
No. What happens is that it is
MasterCard?
laughed at and torn down.
What about my PayPal card?
If you use the Amex Black Card, it means you're headed to a black mass.
It's racist.
To worship Satan.
Racist.
Okay.
It's an African American card.
Fuchs, isn't it time? Isn't it time?
No, we got plenty of time.
We got time.
I can do the news anytime. Let's keep talking about this.
Are there any other cards? I'm looking at my wallet right now.
No, look,
what am I not allowed to use? What about cash?
I'm sure that there's all types of
on the back
colonialism on the dollar bill. But that's old news. On all the bills, that's old. This isn't new information. This isn't new. We've been walking around control with these systems.
So I need to look out for Visa, fungi, Diners Club. No answer on that.
There is no Diners Club.
No, there is a Diners Club.
There is no connection.
I've seen the commercials.
There is no connectivity to...
I could use Diners Club.
Go ahead, man.
What about MasterCard?
Look, you want to use your devil card? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, MasterCard, of course.
Of course.
It's later with Mo Kelly. We're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
KFI
and KOST HD2.
Los Angeles,
Orange County.
Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.